Hi, welcome to Operation Hustle. This is a podcast hosted by Abs Fitness, and today we're going to be basically talking with Mike here.
What up?
All right, and we're going to be talking about two topics. So topic number one is basically seizing the moment, and topic number two is going to be how to develop the skills necessary to seize the moment. So, I want to open up with Mike over here. I'm going to ask you, do you have like a specific moment that comes to mind when I talk about seizing the moment?
So probably I would have to say, if I was going to really pick one, it would be back when I played soccer, which was many, many years ago. We were playing in a tournament, and it was a constant back and forth between our team and another. And I just remember it was just one of those moments where I was always the person that was the playmaker. I could see the field better than a lot of other players on my team. So I was normally the one pushing the ball, but nobody had the instinct to get, in that game, particularly, the finish. So against my better judgment, instead of, I played a little more selfishly, and I'm not advocating for selfishness, but I played what I thought was going to make a difference. And I ended up making a play that ended up breaking the 0-0 draw that we were at the time. And we ended up winning like 3-0 after that point, because at that point, everybody else opened up. But that was a moment where I had a choice. Do I pass the ball or do I take it myself? And that was the moment that I remember I said, no, I'm going to take it myself. And I seized that moment. I ended up scoring. And then that, like I said, that opened up for us to end up winning. And I hate to always use the sports metaphor because I feel like they're kind of overused. But that is probably one like prime example I can think of right off the top of my head where I had to seize a moment in my life. And it was like a split-second decision.
Yeah. Was that like one of the first large moments in which like you felt like you succeeded and you did what you needed to do within a moment of time?
I think it was. I think that was the first time. I could recognize myself as a leader. I always saw myself as somebody who did well. I never recognized myself as a leader, and it was at that point I recognized, because even though I was told that by a lot of coaches growing up, that you are a natural leader in a team, that was a moment where I saw myself as a leader, where I was like, okay, I did take the charge on this, and I did end up leading so that moment would happen. So that was like the first time I saw myself in that role.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's pretty interesting because you do have like these really decisive moments, and they come across so much more intense when you actually act in accordance with like the proper outcome, or the outcome that you would like to make happen. You act in the right way and it happens, and you get to see it come to fruition.
Right.
It's really intense when it happens in those split-second decision moments, but also there are some long haul moments that a lot of people don't necessarily see the full impact of until they reach like the end of the trail. So do you feel like you have any like long haul goals that you didn't realize how big they were or how accomplished you would feel until you actually hit that like breakthrough moment?
I would actually say this year. So I started this year. It was really, I'm going to try not to make this a super long exposition, but last year I turned 30 in October, and it was right at my 30th birthday. I don't know. I'm not saying that 30 is old, but I suddenly kind of realized it's a weird transition from 29 to 30, because you're no longer saying you're in your 20s. And I just realized like I wasn't taking care of myself, and I was like, I need to do something about it. So I basically made my mind up that when I started this year, I was not only it wasn't a diet. It wasn't, I was going to do this. It was, I need to change my overall lifestyle. And that was my goal. And I think that, I always saw like, I'm going to be able to hit certain milestones. I'll be able to lose weight, but I don't think I realized just how much it was going to entail, not only from a physical standpoint, but kind of like like my mental standpoint. Like the days that I have, like the past 2 weeks, I've had to fight myself to keep up with my goals as far as working out, because I'm just so tired. I think that's one that I've had a long haul, especially because we're almost at month 10 of me doing this, and I'm realizing like it's not as easy as I thought it was. I didn't think it was easy to start with, but it's much more difficult than I expected it to be, even after having 9 months of built up habits. I can't think of another word for habits. But 9 months of like that foundation, and now I'm like, it's becoming a mental struggle now to keep up with that same like not ritual, but that, if you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I think I understand what you're saying, and I actually just heard someone speaking about they were basically interviewing a lot of the world's top level coaches whenever it came to Olympic athletes specifically, and they were asking him, he's like, so what do you think is the big difference between these super high level Olympic competitors and the athletes that don't quite make the cut? And he said that overall, at the end of the day, the training can get so repetitive and just monotonous all the time that you have to be able to endure the boredom. So it's like you have to have a strong enough why that compels you through that level of boredom. So I mean, I think if you could apply that to your own life, I think it just has insanely, let's say, good benefits, because I kind of see it in my own way. Fighting, mixed martial arts, it's so repetitive when you want to learn a very specific technique and you want to learn how to do it like perfectly,
Right.
where they're not going to be able to see it. It's not, you're not going to telegraph it. It's going to be fast, but it's also going to be smooth. And you got to have that timing, that like split second timing. And it's just so intense trying to develop that skill, but it's like intense in very small increments every single day.
And I think what's funny is I realized the rut I was getting into, because I spent literally a week and a half constantly going, I'm way too tired to do this. And I realized it wasn't because I was tired. I could always find the energy to go work out and go do what I need to do. That was never the issue. It was I was getting bored. So thankfully I work with a trainer, which she's not going to see this, but I literally am going to see her in not just under 4 hours. And I text her, because I did this last time I got into a rut like this. I said, listen, I won't use this language, but I need you to whoop my butt in my session. Like straight up, I need you to whoop, because basically I need a new challenge. I need to feel challenged again. And that's what was happening. I wasn't feeling challenged in that routine. So it was becoming bored. And I'm like, okay, my personality type is, once I realize I can be decent to good at something, I kind of lose interest in it, because I've kind of felt like I've kind of conquered that goal. So that's the one perk to having the trainer I'm working with, is she's going to put me through the ringer tonight. And I know she will, because I did this last time. And basically she looked at me and she's like, are you dead? And I was like, no, but I'm close to it. So that, I kind of get what you're saying though. It's the monotonous, that boredom can start to ring in, and it kind of just wears on you, because you're doing the same things over and over. You're doing the same workouts over and over. You can change them up a little bit, but still you're doing the same things. And for me, I think I had my year goal to lose 50 pounds, which I hit 2 weeks ago. And that was where I was like, I hit the goal. Now what? And that was why I felt also why I was hitting that rut is I'm hitting a routine, but I hit my goal. Now what? Now where do I go? So I set a new goal, and I'm like, all right, now this is where I'm going. And I think that contributed to that feeling that I was getting.
Yeah. I actually think that's awesome, because that rolls right into one of my notes here, which was actually talking about how I developed a sense of urgency. Now, we've gone over your seizing the moment. So basically, I'm just going to delve into a quick story on mine as well. I have the opportunity. I'm lucky enough to spar a lot of really high level Muay Thai fighters. And when it comes down to it, it's like every single night that I'm sparring these guys, it's a competition to see who will seize the moment in the right way and fast enough and accurately enough to turn the tide whenever it comes to these sparring bouts.
Right.
And the loser, of course, goes home with all sorts of bruises. I got a big, like, freaking half-foot long bruise running right up my thigh right now, because that was a moment where I did not seize the moment. So I got to stay on top of my defense a little better there. But anyways, it's just a compilation of seizing small moments. And that's where I kind of had that epiphany while I was at the dog park, talking about like who has the upper hand and who has the ability to grab it, hold on to it, and basically drag it out until it turns into success. But the way to develop that is the next question. So it's like, how do you develop the skills necessary to seize the moment? Because a lot of people don't really get that. I mean, everyone wants to seize the moment, but not everyone can do it. So what do you think are skills that people, or what do you think was your process of developing your own skills in order to seize these moments as they came to you?
So first thing I'll say is I'm gonna relate. The other big part of my life is I'm a drummer. And I play at a church locally. So I'll take a lot of my cues on what I've done in that, because the one thing I have been told over and over is I always showed up prepared and I was always ready on the fly to do anything if there was a change. One of it is take pride in your preparation. So take pride in, the little things that you're doing, whether from a music standpoint, the music that we play is not anything difficult. Let's just put it this way. It's very here. It's not anything crazy up here. It's not anything crazy, but I'll still listen to whatever songs I'm going to be playing for that week. I'll still listen to a song, I'm not joking, 30 times. If I've played it 100 times in a live setting, I'll still listen to it 30 times to prep the exact same way. So taking pride in your preparation is a big one for me. And I think also is taking pride in your execution. You always want to make sure that when you are executing, whether you're not feeling the greatest, whether you maybe have had an off day, you always want to make sure that I've always treated, when I played sports and when I'm, playing drums, I always treated it the same way. I never want to walk away from a field, and I never want to walk away from a drum kit feeling like I left anything on the table. I've always wanted to make sure that I left it all right there. Like I let it all out of me. I don't want to walk off the field and feel like I could have done this better. I could have, in that moment, I didn't do it, and it probably would have made the difference. I always wanted to leave it all on the field. And I know it's an old metaphor, leave it all on the field, but it really does make the most sense. You always want to leave it there because you don't want that regret. You don't want to sit there for days going, man, if I had done this, it would have made all the difference in the world. So that to me is pride in preparation. So whatever you're preparing for, whether it's a workout, whether it's dieting, always take pride in what you're building for, because that foundation is what's going to end up holding you up when you have the harder times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely can see that. And honestly, like with my own, let's say preparing to be able to seize moments when they do come by, I've had to do a lot of preparation myself. And my biggest preparation is, in my opinion, I ended up developing my sense of urgency through constant goal progression. So every time I achieved a goal, I realized, you hit this plateau, like you said earlier. You're like, I achieved my weight loss goal. And then I was like, what now?
Yeah.
So it's like every time you have that what now question come to you, it's so awesome because it's an opportunity to find something new to get better at and better yourself through. Like recently I passed a level 1 test, something that I've been preparing for a full year. Never mind like the 4 years of experience that I have in mixed martial arts, but just this past year I've been preparing for one level 1 test. The reason it took so long is I spent 6 months at a gym that just didn't seem to invest the time that I needed, or didn't seem to have the curriculum necessary to really help me achieve my next level.
Right.
So I kind of wasted a good 6 months over there. Sometimes going to classes where people wouldn't even show up. And so I had to find a new place. And then it's like I got to start the whole process over again of reintroducing myself to the fighters, to the coaching staff, to getting the trust level that's needed for them to be able to be like, okay, well, we're going to do our level 1 testing because we think you're a worthy candidate. We think you're going to be a good fit for the team. Because like, it's not like, well, most sports are going to have like very selective processes,
right,
especially when you're like entering into something where bodily harm can occur.
Yeah.
So it's just like you have to develop that trust with your trainers and with your coaching staff before they even give you the opportunity to join the fight team. So I had to spend another 6 months doing that. And then it's like all of a sudden the year has passed. I've got my level 1 test. I just had it like this past Saturday and I passed. Thank you, God. And it was just like this big high and then silence. Like what do you do now?
Where do I go?
Yeah. And so I was just like, okay, I'm kind of in this meditative state, analyzing what's in front of me and how I'm going to operate within like the new parameters. And then I go to my first, sparring session with the team. We complete like a workout, we go through sparring drills, and then we go through actual live sparring. And the sparring was just like, it was so intense. And it was like, holy crap, I see like where everything starts to click and all the puzzle pieces are falling together.
Right.
And I get my butt kicked a little bit. but I come back with a vision, and that vision is like, okay, this guy had a long guard. When I went for a jab, he would normally come in over the top with a hook, like a lead hook, and he'd follow it up with a calf kick. So how do I counter that? So basically, I bait the calf kick because sometimes he'll alternate. If I'm dragging or if I'm holding that leg out there, he likes to just kind of chop at it. And then when he chops, he also goes in for that lead hook. So what I came up with was basically going to a switch knee. So I'm just going to pull the leg back as he starts to wind up for that kick. And then I'm going to jump right into the switch knee, close in tight because he operates on a long guard. And so I know he doesn't want me in tight. And so then I close in tight and I finish up with clinch work from there. So it's been like, finding the new puzzle pieces now that I'm in a new, let's say, adventure.
And what's funny is we're talking about, how to develop a sense of urgency when you're in these moments. And part of what you just said was be flexible. Like, be flexible to what's coming at you. And part of what I was going to say is don't be afraid to say yes to different things. I'm sure in your training, you've had different times where somebody's told you should try this, and you've got to be able to say yes to that because they're seeing it from a different perspective. So you also have to be flexible. With my job here, if you ask any of my bosses, one of the biggest things I've kind of said is, whether I'm going to fail at it or not, I've always kind of said yes if I'm asked to do something, because at least I can say I tried it and know that it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be another key, is make sure that you're being flexible in whatever you're pursuing. Is like, there's always going to be little changes in the path that you're taking. Just be aware that you have to be flexible in order to continue down that path sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It's crucial. You've got to be a student of the game, because if you're not a student of the game, you're going to miss out on those tiny details that require the utmost of attention to actually discover. And it's that little detail that always makes the difference. So you got to actually pay attention to it and understand that you don't know everything. So being humble is a big part of that.
And I think the last one that I could probably think of as far as how to have a sense of urgency comes back to drums, which is always make sure that your basics in whatever you're doing are extremely sound. Whether that's with me with drumming was technique, whether it was rudiments, whether it was this, whether with you was fighting. It's the most basic things that you have to understand about a skill or an area that's going to be that foundation, like I mentioned earlier. The basics are what gets people through it. You'll hear coaches in the NFL say, we need to go back to the basics. We're trying to do too much. We're trying to do too many other things, and the basics are being looked over. And that's where it's always going to come back to, as fundamentals. I think that's the big one, is always practice those fundamentals, whatever area it is, whether it's working out, whether it's, for me, drumming, whether it's, let me just go really off the cuff, whether it's coding, whatever it is you're working on, always practice those fundamentals, because that's what you're always going to fall back on when you are in a moment where you have to have that sense of urgency. And if those foundations are strong, when you fall back onto them, you're good.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And there are like certain key combos, especially within fighting, that you fall back onto.
Yeah.
Things that you can kind of mindlessly do in order to get yourself out of a situation. I actually was just sparring the other night, and one of the like 4-time state champions at my gym was actually talking to me. He was like, whenever you get into a situation where you don't quite feel like you know what you're going to do, start throwing straights until you get enough space to where you can open up with a kick.
Right.
And, I applied that in the next round of sparring, and it worked wonders. So it's like, ingrain a code, like a bailout. And if you can ingrain that properly, and if you can ingrain, like, let's say, several bailouts for several very different situations, then it's like, it's all the better, because like that preparation of not just not just for what you want to happen, but for what you expect to go wrong is also so crucial.
Yeah. And I think when you practice those basics, when you have a really, really good understanding of that, I think what comes with it is confidence. So when you are challenged in a moment of urgency, when you are challenged in a moment where you have to kind of take the reins really quickly, you have confidence in your ability, because you know that those basics are there and you can operate within them. I've been put in situations where I've had less than 24 hours notice to go play a set, and somebody's asked me, how did you do so well? Well, I'm confident in my ability to play, and I'm confident in my ability to do what I need to do. The rest of it is just being able to roll with the punches from there. Mm-hmm. It's that confidence comes when you work on those basics, and when you operate in that confidence, it makes those moments of urgency seem so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
You are so confident in what you're able to do because those basics are sound in you, that most people would look at you and go, how did you just make it through that with such a level head? Mm-hmm. And that's what it comes down to, is, it can be perceived as cockiness sometimes, but really it's just confidence in your own abilities. And that's where the practicing the basics comes in.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I think preparation is pretty much everything. So like whenever it comes down to it, if you're not prepared for the moment, how in the world would you possibly seize it?
Right.
So I think that's like actually one of the big reasons I decided to become a fighter, was just because I understood that exposing myself to something that's going to bring out one of the highest senses of urgencies is going to require me to adapt within one of the most urgent levels, I guess.
Right.
So it pretty much overall just seemed copacetic to the end goal that I want in life, which is basically just to have a plethora of experiences which I can draw upon to bring about a positive impact in the life of my family and the life of others. So this is like a big conquest for me to understand what or who I am in the most intense situations, and who I can prepare to be, and how I can prepare to execute in those. So I think it's just like everything kind of coincides.
So let me ask you this. Normally for anybody out there watching and listening, I'm normally the one of the two people behind the cameras running all of the production for this. So it's different being on the mic talking today. It's very different. So let me ask you this, because I'm curious, is what we're talking about. If you were talking to one of your clients as a trainer, what are the top 3 things you would give them in order for them to be able to have that sense of urgency in their lives? Like if I'm your client, what would you be telling me right now?
So, do you feel like you're lacking in a certain area when it comes to your sense of urgency? I know you brought up recently, like you needed your trainer to whoop your butt.
Yeah. Do I feel that way? Yes. But that's because, like I said, for me at least, and like I said, I was able to recognize I hit a goal, and therefore like my urgency was suddenly gone because I still have 3 months left, but I've already hit my goal. So do I take my foot off the gas pedal for the next 3 months or 2 months, something like that?
So I think what it comes down to whenever people need to understand like the sense of urgency, they need probably about 3 things. I'd say first, they need confidence. Most people come in there and they're like, all shy, like I don't want to do this. Like, oh, do I do it this way, that way? I'm
not going to use that machine because I have no idea how it works.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. You need to like build them up, and then you kind of need to break them down.
Yeah.
Because like habits come with their own ego. It almost feels like you get stuck in a habit. It's like, this is where I'm comfortable. I'm the best here. I'm a small fish, or I'm a big fish in a small pond syndrome. So it's like you got to break them out of that. And it's like the process to do that is first to build them up, push them out into deeper waters where there are bigger fish, and then you have to break them down so you can build them up again. So the way you break them down is they need to have some sort of aspect of humbleness. So like that's where the trust factor comes in, because if they can be humble and understand like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing at all, then they can trust you enough to lead them through those deeper waters to where they can develop themselves. So it's like confidence, humbleness. So I know those are like 2 opposing things.
Very.
All right. And so I'm just going to throw in balance because you need to be able to balance those 2 things.
Well, I don't think they're opposing. I think I've said this for a lot of years in my life. There's a fine line between being confident and being cocky.
Yeah,
it's fine, and that's where balance is, and that's where that balance comes, is understanding that you can be confident without being cocky, and you can be cocky without being confident.
I agree with you there. Yeah, so I think they can definitely coexist.
Yes.
But I'd say the balance between the 2 is kind of where that growth lies, because you have to kind of flip-flop between being, humble and just and understanding when the time is to wait and learn, and then being confident enough to act and execute.
You're right.
So it's the development of both of those opposing aspects of someone, to where they understand when they need to dig deep, because they aren't enough as they are. So they need to dig deeper to grow more.
Right.
And then balancing that with when you need to, let's say, act on that.
So for me, like the best way I could equate that for, let's just say, somebody that is going to the gym or working with a trainer, I have to be able to be confident that I can do the workouts that my trainer is putting in front of me. But where my humility or my humbleness needs to come in is when she's telling me I'm doing something wrong, or how to do something better, I have to be able to go, okay, I understand she's clearly seeing this, or he's clearly seeing something that I'm not seeing. And I have to be able to make adjustments to that. And I think that's where the humility comes in, is you can't just assume that everything you're doing is right. When another perspective comes in, especially from a constructive standpoint, you have to be able to hear it and understand that they're seeing something you're not.
Yeah. So basically you have to be coachable, and you have to have the confidence to, do the things that you're coached to do on your own. And then basically once you find the balance between, Joe Rogan puts it pretty eloquently, between your inner bitch and, your outer savage, then that's when you can effectively pursue like things in a healthy manner.
I definitely agree with that. Well, we're a couple minutes early, but I feel like we kind of hit a natural, I
think that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, Abbey, and the rest of the crew should be back next week. They weren't able to hear, but I was actually very humbled to be asked to be on today. So I hope I was a solid guest.
You were definitely great. Thanks for coming on. It was a good podcast.
Well, we appreciate you guys being with us today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we will be back next Friday at 2 p.m. EST. Alejandro, anything to say at the end?
That's it. Peace out.
We out. Get back here first. No, I'm putting you under the gun.